Hello and welcome to the Reykjavik Newsdesk. I'm Andie Sophia Fontaine, and these are the week's top stories in Iceland. If you like the content that you see here, be sure and like and subscribe. And if you really like the content that you see here, check out the Patreon link in the description below to see what kind of goodies you can get just by kicking a little extra coin our way. But now, the week's top stories in Iceland. You know how normally when there's a teacher strike and a bunch of parents are angry about having to stay home with their children, and so they organize a protest? That this protest is normally directed at the teachers, calling them lazy and greedy and entitled and what have you? Well, Iceland just flipped the script. You see, some workers for the union BSRB, which is the union of municipal employees, have been on strike for about a month now. Municipal employees includes preschool teachers and grade school teachers. And because some of them in some municipalities have been on strike, scabbing, that is replacing striking workers, is illegal in Iceland. A lot of these parents have had to make other arrangements or just stay home with their kids altogether. Management, in this case, is the Association of Icelandic Municipalities, and the main disagreement centers around the wages that they're being paid, in that the union believes that workers who are all working the same job should be getting the same salary, and management disagrees, and so there's a strike. Anyway, with that background, 3 mothers in the South Icelandic town of Hveragerði, who have had to stay home with their kids, have had enough, and they decided to organize a protest, and they got 200 people together to go up and direct their anger at the Association of Icelandic Municipalities. In particular, they told the association that they're showing these workers disrespect. They furthermore urged them to go back to the negotiating table with the union and to try to work something out. And frankly, this kind of news should not really be a surprise to anybody. Parents, consumers, and workers can be, and often are, the exact same people. And when people realize this, solidarity happens, as has been the case in this story. Iceland has been showing support for Ukraine since the beginning of the Russian invasion. Some of the support has come from the private sector, and some of the support has come expressly from the Icelandic government. One of the ways in which support has been shown has been the lifting of tariffs and custom taxes on goods imported from Ukraine. This, however, did not sit well with a lot of Icelandic farmers, in particular Icelandic chicken farmers, especially when it came to light that, without the customs tax, frozen chicken from Ukraine was actually cheaper than the frozen chicken from chickens that are raised right here in our own country. Iceland's agricultural sector has a lot of political power in this country, in particular with the Progressive Party, who, as I pointed out in a previous video about Iceland's political parties, used to be known as the Farmers' Party. The Progressive Party is also one of 3 parties in Iceland's ruling coalition. In any event, the parliamentary majority voted not to renew the customs-free status of Ukrainian imported goods, and the foreign minister said that she was really disappointed by this, but there may be a way to put the customs-free status back in again at some point in the future, and Iceland will continue, of course, to show support for Ukraine. Actually, it doesn't get stated enough just how much political clout the agricultural sector in Iceland actually has. Anecdotally speaking, I was once on a press junket to Brussels when Iceland was in negotiations with the European Union about joining. And one of the key sticking points between the EU and Iceland were the demands of Iceland's farmers, just to show you how much power they can actually wield. Speaking of the price of things, there's a new website called Verðgáttin, which will allow you to compare the prices of the same product at 3 different stores, namely Bonus, Krónan, and Netto. Now, I fondly remember as a junior reporter going to a supermarket with a notepad and a pencil and writing down the prices for things, and then some store employee would walk up to me and ask, "What are you doing?" And I'd tell them, and they'd tell me to cut it out or get out of the store, saying that it wasn't allowed. I guess you have to be approved by the store ahead of time before you go in and start comparing their prices. But anyway, if this is the kind of thing that you were thinking of doing, you don't have to worry anymore about having to go to the store and get hassled in the aisles, because now you can go to this website, which I've linked to in the description. This will allow you to compare the prices of the same product at 3 different stores. And though it's all in Icelandic, it's pretty self-explanatory. So I highly recommend checking it out if you're shopping in Iceland and you're on a budget. You better bundle up this weekend because there is a puddle of cold heading to Iceland from the north that's going to hit us this weekend. Now, this puddle is a bone-chilling minus 36 degrees Celsius at its core, but this core is like 5 kilometers up in the sky. For those of us down at sea level, what this will mean is just like an colder than average weekend, although there may be some snowfall up in the mountains. The good news is that when this cold front is passed, it is forecast that this will be followed by much warmer weather, and those of us who live in the Southwest, such as myself, may finally be able to enjoy summer weather. And for those who are not already familiar, summer weather in the Southwest, in particular in Reykjavik, generally means partly to mostly cloudy skies with temperatures between 10 to 15 degrees Celsius and a moderate amount of rain. It's the folks who live in the Northeast. They're the ones who get those bright, sunny, cloudless days and temperatures in the upper teens to low 20s. They get the real summer up there. Lucky ducks. Speaking of ducks, the city of Reykjavik wants to remind people once again not to feed ducks bread. Now, if you've been in downtown Reykjavik, you may have noticed that there's this very large pond. It's called Tjörnin, which literally means the pond. And Reykjavik City Hall sits right next to it. And it's a very common pastime in good weather, and even in bad weather, really, that folks will go down and feed the ducks. But you're not supposed to feed the ducks bread. It's bad for them. I know the ducks love the bread, but since when do ducks know what's good for them, really? Anyway, there's a more sinister reason why the city of Reykjavik is asking people not to feed the ducks bread on this occasion. It's not to do with their digestive systems, but bread is also a favorite of seagulls, and seagulls eat just about anything, including baby ducks. Yeah, and you don't want to witness that. So go and look at the ducks, admire how pretty they are, take pictures of them, but please, please, please do not feed them bread. Think of the ducklings. And finally, I have some good news to report about one of Reykjavik's most iconic streets, Skólavörðustígur, or rather one block thereof, otherwise known as the Rainbow Street. The Rainbow Street was first painted these colors in 2015 at the behest of the city of Reykjavik in order to show support with Iceland's queer community. Since then, it typically gets repainted every year or so. The city has now confirmed that not only is the Rainbow Street here to stay, it's going to get a repainting and it's going to get covered with material that's going to make it more durable and longer lasting. As someone who lives in downtown Reykjavik, I can personally attest that this particular block of Reykjavik is a very popular spot for tourists. There isn't a moment that goes by when you won't walk by there and see somebody taking selfies or taking a group shot or doing one of those photos that looks like, oh, this person is taking me by the hand and they're leading me somewhere. Those types of photos are very, very popular on the Rainbow Street. So this is good news, not only for those of us who live here, but for those of us who visit. So good on the city of Reykjavik for that one. In any event, that's the week's news in Iceland. If you like the content that you see here, be sure and like and subscribe. And I'd also like to ask you to check out my latest single topic video, which is 5 common myths about Iceland debunked. This single topic video was decided by my patrons. And so if you too want to dictate what single topic I cover in a longer form video, then definitely check out my Patreon. Speaking of which, I would like to thank Corinne Vasquez, Marion Ward, Christopher Hunter, Marion Moores, Kimberly McDaniel, Iceman98, Octavia Hrund-Jonsdottir for being patrons on the $20 level, Laura Johnson for being a patron on the $15 level, and Stephen Ellis and Vivi Carvalho Schaffner for being patrons on the $10 level. You folks rock. That's all from me at Newsdesk. Be good to each other.